Here's a reminder of several little stories. Let's see what they evoke in us right now. There's that story about a certain merchant who went into the marketplace, and he happened to meet another merchant who was an acquaintance of his. And the second merchant said to the first, "I hear you only have one wife. You don't know what you're missing. You should have 2 wives. Why, when you have 2 wives, you can partake of the sweetness of one, and when you're tired of that, you can go and partake of the sweetness of the second, conjugal bliss. You should have 2 wives." Well, the first merchant had a perfectly good wife. She was attractive and kind, and he loved her very dearly. But the words of the second merchant kept ringing in his ears, "You should have 2 wives, you should have 2 wives." So after some time he decided that he would take a second wife. And on their wedding night, he went to the bridal bed, and his new wife said to him, "I saw you kissing your wife good night. You must still love her. Go to her for your pleasures. I am not married to you to be your pleasured toy." So off he went to his first wife's bed and tried to come close to her. And she said, "You've got your second wife now. Go to her for your pleasures." So this went on night after night after night. He had no bed in which to sleep. So what else could he do? He decided he'd have to go to the mosque. So when he arrived at the mosque in the middle of the night, there was another figure kneeling on his prayer mat. First merchant thought to himself, "Oh, it must be some lonely traveller that's finding solace in the mosque." But when he got closer, he saw that it was the second merchant. And he said, "What are you doing here?" Second merchant said, "Well, neither of my wives will have me. I have nowhere else to go." First merchant said, "Well, why did you tell me about this conjugal bliss, that I should have 2 wives?" Second merchant said, "Well, it's very lonely at the mosque." And then there's that little story about the time when the gods decided that they would pollute all the waters of the world, so it would send everyone mad. But there was a certain man who was in a somewhat advanced state of enlightenment, who was told that this was going to happen by a god that he had a particular relationship with, you might say. So he stored up water and put it in a cave, and all of the world went mad. But he was ostracized, he was laughed at, he was decried. So he became so lonely that he partook of the waters of life and became like everybody else. Now many times this last little anecdote has been repeated to you, but always, most times, the last line has been left for us to complete ourselves. And that's how it is again today. But it's important that it be brought to our notice that we have a need to complete this story for ourselves is the story of the great Sufi el-Gazali, who made the quotation, "When I commenced my spiritual journey, I learned that which was acceptable to ordinary men, and that which I learned was repentance. Repentance. I'm a sinner. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy." And then I moved into the second phase of my spiritual journey, and I learned that which was acceptable both to ordinary men and to the elite. And that which I learned was faith and trust in God. God is the doer. God is all in all. And so on. And then I moved into the third phase of my spiritual journey, and I have learned that which is neither acceptable to ordinary men nor to the elite. And I have become a pariah, an outcast. That which I learned is. How would you complete this story? What is the last line of this anecdote? And that which I have learned in this phase of my journey is.
There is no belonging.
There's no belonging? Yes, there's no belonging. What have you learned? What is it now that allows you to walk abroad in life, have the usual traumas, vicissitudes of life? We're not separate from them. We feel and know the suffering of others. We see the ways of the world. We see the madness. What is it? How do we complete this line? How do you resist drinking the waters of life to share the madness of life, the suffering of life? What's the last line of the story for you? I was on a number of trains, airplanes, over the last weeks. The trains are always crowded in Singapore, stuffed with people, all kinds of people. But I noticed there were three things that were outstanding in all of the situations. Either people were sitting on the train asleep or they were talking on a mobile phone, or they were listening to an iPod. I didn't see anyone who was just being on the train.
Except you.
Except me. What do we do? Is it a lonely place? Are you lonely? What's happened in this difference that we always had? We always felt different from everybody else. And that's not there anymore. And yet we're still become the pariahs and the outcasts. What's happened to you?
I think when I know I'm the space, I'm also nobody.
All right. To finish the story, what's the last line? And that which I have learned is.
I'm nobody.
Okay. It's the beginning.
But when you know about it, you're also God as well.
Right. So that puts a smile on your face, doesn't it? All right.
Work finished.
We're finished.
Nobody to be.
Nobody to be. Yes. So we can move on. Sounds good to me.